for today's installment of the Bugs and Bottom Lines podcast, I got two very special guests with me today, Mr. Andy Graves and Mr. John North over here, two prominent consultants in the Mississippi Delta. This is kind of the heart of Delta country, and these guys got a better handle on what's going on in this part of the state than anybody you could ask. So what we're going to do today is just talk about bug management and that kind of thing, and plant bugs, and kind of get an update on where you guys are, what kind of season you've had up to this point. Andy, I'll let you start. Tell us about what's been going on here in the Delta, and what your problems have been.
Oh, the North Delta's where I'm at. It's been a really big mess. We got off to the best start we've ever had. Grain, got most of it in. Then into April rolled around, started raining and didn't quit. Our cotton crop for the most part's really late. The stuff that we got in early really got hit hard with weather, and it doesn't look good. It's June the 19th today, and probably 30 or 40% of my acreage is either in thrip stage or just coming out of thrip stage, where last year we were approaching bloom within the next week to 10 days on all of it. So we're really behind. We're really growing up. It doesn't look good at this point. And we got more rain coming today. We're trying to get herbicides out fast as we can to clean up, and we really didn't have a terrible problem with thrip, but we did have some issues on the later stuff. And now that we've got so much corn in the area approaching brown silk, we're starting to get some pretty high plant bug numbers in the last week to 10 days. So
I'm curious, how much Thrive On cotton do you have? What percentage of your cotton
I have two test plots that have Thrive On in them, and that's it. I have zero. So.
Okay. We'll talk about your situation too here in just a second.
I'm in a heavy enlist area. I have been for the last 3 or 4 years due to nematodes.
So pretty light on the thrips overall, but now we're getting into plant bugs.
We had to probably make an application on 60 or 70% of what we look at this year.
Okay.
With Edge, and if we had to make another one, we pushed acephate out to try to get us through, and it got us through, but it wasn't great.
So you went primarily with Intrepid Edge for thrips control, and it worked good for you?
It did. It just doesn't last long. So
yeah. And what about you, John?
Same as Andy said. South Delta, of course, Yazoo County, Sharkey County, even a little bit of Humphreys County. Got the corn in early compared to further north, like more towards LaFleur County and Sunflower County. But corn shaped up pretty quick, off to a pretty good start. The further north you went towards Greenwood, the tougher it got. Had a lot of corn go in late April, even early May with prices. A lot of growers can't make soybeans work this year, so we're heavier on corn and cotton this year. But off to a good start in the South Delta early. Tough start towards Greenwood, but majority of corn, all good now. Really struggled getting our cotton in. Like Andy said, still got some cotton still coming up. This last rain had some cotton sitting in dry dirt, just got it emerged. And anywhere from cotyledon stage to basically 11th or 12th node. Some of my earliest cotton probably should start blooming around the 4th, but still a late crop overall. As far as the cotton's concerned, thrips were not bad on us, and I'm basically 50% Phytogen 411, probably another 40% Delta Pine 2333, and I've got a little bit of Stoneville 4595. I had to spray every bit of my Stoneville 4595 for thrips, and got by on the 2333 and the 411. It's more of a variety preference, it seemed like, on that. Did not have much trouble at all with thrips. Of course, all the seed was overtreated with acephate, so we just got by with it. I know they have, a little bit of issues with the acephate up north, comparing, thrips on acephate versus Intrepid Edge. Further south you go, it seems like we're having still some pretty good luck with acephate. And of course, it's a lot cheaper. I have spiked my rate up a little bit. I'm running more like 4/10 to half a pound of acephate for thrips and still getting pretty good control. Like Andy said, it's not going to last really necessarily long, but the Intrepid Edge and acephate, putting that over the top of thrips, you're basically wanting 3 days out of that, 4 days, just to get that cotton plant kicked off, get to fourth node, and then most of the time you're in pretty good shape. But a lot of this cotton, I would say 80% of it now, we're transitioning out of the thrip stage, getting more into plant bug management now. And with corn, corn's already tasseling, silk's starting to dry down. This past week, had a lot of corn trimming go out, and just getting ready for basically, our first really real application for plant bugs, probably this coming week, whenever we can get the weather right.
That sounds good. Now you're transitioning into plant bug. Have you got a feel for how the plant bug populations are? Would you say moderate, high?
So right now, moving into plant bug management, we've had so much rain around our area, especially in the South Delta, North Delta too. It seems like everything's still green in a lot of places. Still got a wide range of corn planting dates. Some corn's just now tasseling. So a lot of this corn is still harboring plant bugs, it seems like. A lot of their landscapes on these edges of fields and stuff still got, natural harboring sites and everything. So plant bugs right now are moderate to low, depending on edge effects. But as the year goes on, probably getting into later June, early July, probably won't catch as many rains as we have been, hopefully not anyway. And some stuff will start drying down, these silks will start drying down, and for sure see more of a transition into some pretty intense plant bug management with all the corn and with all the corn around in the next several weeks. But I don't know if you want me to.
Yeah, Andy, how's your plant bug situation?
In my cotton, a lot of our fields are, and this doesn't reflect on my growers, it's just the conditions we had thrown at us this year were so grown up with pigweed and mare's tail that we've already got a crop of them out there harboring it in the field. So I've seen situations where we've been putting Intrepid Edge out for thrip, and we've already got plant bug nymphs crawling all over cotton. We're just now getting into the migration part of adults, but I can already tell just from the amount of corn that we have and soybeans up there. All my soybeans are at R3, R2, R3. We're dropping blooms. We're seeing some movement out of that. And starting this week, we really saw some high numbers already jump out of corn onto 7, 8, 9 leaf cotton. Went from nothing to 15, 20% over the weekend. It was that quick. I'm going to have so many different stages of stuff coming at me this year. It's scary. We've got things already in the field, things coming from the edges, and this isn't the year for us to have to deal with something like this, but it's going to be probably pretty rough up there. So
yeah,
we'll manage it best we can.
So how many cotton fields you got that don't have a corn field close by?
0.
Yeah.
I can see a cornfield from every one of mine.
Yeah.
Every one, you can see one. So that's not a.
So as you're transitioning now into this plant bug situation that you got, particularly on your borders and that kind of stuff, I'm curious as to how you're going to manage, your strategy, product use and that kind of stuff on going into plant bug control. Yeah, either way.
So typically going into early plant bug season, a lot of this stuff is we're still trying to get weeds cleaned up in fields, initiating squares. Some 11th, 12th node cotton, you got 3 to 4 first position squares on it. Typically we go with cheaper products, not necessarily the best products, but keeping it cheap because we're piggybacking them in with herbicide, trying to get fields cleaned up, saving that trip across the field, or whether it's with an airplane or something, try to conserve on trips across the field, getting lay-by out. And typically those shots or imidacloprid. If you've got a little higher pressure, what I do is I typically use tank mix with imidacloprid and acephate for the knockdown. Still getting pop-up showers around, so that imidacloprid plus acephate mix typically does a good job for me. I come back every 3 days in intervals, and I'm trimming corn edges, 3 passes with an airplane. If a rogator's not tied up, spraying weed somewhere, I'll have them go down the corn edges and try to keep those plant bugs back on the edge effects to control them to where we're not coming back 5-6 days into a big field and having to respray it again. Majority of the time, some people call those throwaway sprays. I don't necessarily say that's a throwaway spray, but sometimes we do applicate poisons for plant bugs at sub-threshold levels, just trying to conserve on those trips across the field. If we're going across the field and we got to clean up weeds, we're going to throw something in to keep those plant bugs beat back. So that's kind of my first plant bug spray. The next time we go across that field, I typically kind of beef it up, and typically on my second application, I throw in diamond. Depending on the circumstances with weather, I might use transform. If it's hot and dry and I know I'm gonna get 48 hours, I will run something like 3/4 pound of acephate with 5 or 6 ounces of diamond. But I have diamond most of the time, and especially with the corn around this year, I will have diamond going in with my second plant bug application. The plants are still small. It's still kind of an open canopy to where you can get poison to it. And next time I come across the field, typically going into bloom, basically, is when I put my second shot of diamond out, and that's whenever I usually come back with something like transform or something. It's a high efficacy product. Typically, you've got more numbers migrating out of these fields of corn or green areas next to wood lines, and you've got more of a threshold style application, and that's where you get your most bang for the buck with the transform and diamond going in basically prior to bloom or right there just after bloom. And
So
that's where
are you going with 1.5 ounces, or?
I typically go with 1.5 ounces, and I've had good control with that. Along with trimming corn edges, it seems to do a good job. And typically, when that first transform shot goes out, I have a number of aphids starting to colonize. Nothing bad, but that timing of the third application with your second shot of diamond, the transform on migrating plant bugs coming out of corn, with aphids colonizing, it's a really good shot, and by far get the most bang for your buck on that particular instance. And different regions in the area, I know, do different things. It's 9 different ways to skin a cat, but we've had extremely good luck with that in the South and Central Delta.
Andy?
We're going to start off. I go off of size really and numbers, but I usually run about. We saw a long time ago, and it's hard to explain this to some of the farmers, but they're seeing it more now with weeds, and I try to explain to them this is the same thing with insects, but you just can't see it. I can. They're tank mixing a lot of herbicides together, Liberty plus Roundup, Liberty Roundup and List, whatever, but it's the same way for me up there where I'm at. We've documented very high levels of resistance in the past to certain things. We were a big centric area for a long time. I usually try and go back every year and slip some in. It hasn't looked good for me. So what I've done, and I feel like if we could get our rates economically up higher, that one might work. But I do not typically do anything once we get into squaring cotton that is not tank mixed. So depending on the pressure, I'm gonna run 1/2 to 2/3 to 3/4 pound of acephate. The higher rates are on closer to bloom with imidacloprid at a couple ounces, and try to ride that as long as I can. Now I know this year, looking at the amount of corn I have around me, is fixing to get, and already has in a couple of spots, really ugly, really quick. And I'm trying to save my transform as long as I can, and I will once we get more fruit on the cotton. And once we get into that, I typically would go out with 1.5 ounces of transform and 6 ounces of diamond. But when the migration of plant bugs starts, and we're going to have areas where we're going to have to get on a 4 or 5 day schedule, Then it's going to be an acephate transform tank mix. I'm going to have diamond in there the first time. I'm going to try to lay diamond out this year every couple, 3 weeks. I got myself in a lot of trouble last year trying not to do that, and it bit me at the end of the year. I can't stress to anybody enough that to keep that stuff in the tank. It's something that you're not going to see the effects of it right off the bat, but later on in the year, it definitely is going to help you out. And you know, Transform's going. We waited till later on in the year. Last year, I got my aphids and mites and plant bugs kind of cleaned up, and we would typically swap over to something cheap to end the year out with bifenthrin, you know, 3/4 to a pound of acephate plus diamond, and man, that just was an absolute miss last year. It's always been effective, and last year it wasn't just me. I've talked to other people. We're going to have to ride Transform a lot harder this year than ever, and this isn't the year for it. But I know it's going to happen, and it's really all I got up there, honestly, until, you know, something like a planazoline comes out to give us another chemistry to rotate in. And then that's another thing. I've talked with a lot of the people with Corteva. I feel like Transform needs a tank. It doesn't need a tank mix partner, but I feel like if you sit there and try to run a high rate and ride it 7 to 10 days and do that over and over again, that's going to create resistance so much quicker than if I've got something else in the tank to take things out. That's just my opinion.
Now, y'all hadn't seen, up to this time, you hadn't seen any loss of control with Transform, right?
At the lower rates, like where I was running 3/4 of a pound of orthene and 3/4 of an ounce of Transform, I have seen some aphids get through that. So I have to get my Transform rate up now on aphids up to 1.25 ounces, 1.5 ounces if I got them real bad. But it's for me, plant bug control, no, I have not yet. But I'm afraid at some point we will. You know, and
if we don't take care of that product.
Exactly, and it's really, you know, it's all I have. I mean, I can get by with some other things, but you know, this when your back's against the wall, that's the only one that you got to you know. So I want to take care of it as long as we can. You know, so.
And it's going back to what Gus was saying, just as far as what you like seeing from the Transform, and if you do have insect numbers, typically what I've seen when I go out with my Transform and Transform plus diamond, that's not necessarily a knockdown within 36 to 48 hours, but typically when I go out with that application, I come back within 4 days, can still run some numbers. Of course, square retention is still above threshold, still looks good, maybe deters a little bit of feeding, but that Transform diamond shot always looks better going back 7 or 8 days later. I've gotten to where if I'm running some numbers and steady adult migration coming in, I will throw 3/4 pound of acephate in with that 1.5 ounce Transform. Might leave that diamond off just to conserve on some money, save that diamond shot for down the road, but get that knockdown on it. That way you come back in 48 hours, you like what you see, you're clean, and that gets you down the road the next 10 to 14 days.
Square retention's big. I mean, because like Jeff said, you got bugs coming in. Some of these fields, you know, you might start off at 10 or 12%, and you might be 15 or 25 days behind the application. And that's not a failure. I mean, if your retention's still good,
That's right.
you still got bugs
exactly
coming in
right.
on top of it.
You got to look at that
A lot of
square
people,
retention.
you know,
That's
I have people get upset about some of these reports, but I mean, there's nothing you can do when they're pouring into a field. You got to keep something out there.
It's all about the square retention, though,
and,
right? Thank the folks here at the Delta Research Extension Center for hosting us today and providing us a pretty nice place to do the podcast. So
Always good to be in the shade.
Absolutely. Although y'all stuck me in the sun. I didn't put any sunscreen on. So